were a lot of historical romance and paranormal romance in August, so without further ado, here are my thoughts. Alright, I read another Jo Goodman book. She writes my favorite Old West romances, and also on occasion some really weirdly bad Old West romances. This is one of her good ones. It's called This Gun for Hire. It's about Calico Nash, who's a kind of Annie Oakley type bounty hunter who gets hired to protect the daughter of this rich guy by posing as her tutor. The dialogue in this one is witty and quick, and the characters were well developed and quite enjoyable. This is a standalone book, not part of a series, so you can pick it up right away without having to read anything else first. Okay, so remember how I decided I'm still not really off my Regency romance reading slump, but that I am really enjoying one Regency author, which is Courtney Milan? Well, I read another one by her. It's called The Duchess War, the first book in the Brothers Sinister series, and I loved it. I love her as an author. This is about a wallflower, and I love wallflower stories, and there's a duke. I know, it sounds like every other Regency romance, but read it. It's brilliant and sweet, and the characters are enjoyable. I loved this one. Then I circled back and picked up the prequel novella, The Governess Affair, which is about the parents of some of the characters from book one. And I gotta say it was middling at best, and at points actually kind of disturbing. So not so good, but I am still looking forward to picking up book two. I also read Courtney Milan's What Happened at Midnight, about the daughter of an embezzler and the man he embezzled from who thinks she still knows where the money is. This is the classic plotline of she done him wrong, or has she? And I'm a sucker for the tragically misused heroine storyline. And this wasn't a bad rendition of it, but I do have higher standards for Courtney Milan. Even in a 100-page novella, do better. My other exception to my Regency romance ban has been Eloisa James. She's a bit more hit or miss than Courtney Milan, but I have a soft spot for her. When I first started to use Tumblr, she had just started to use Tumblr as well, and she reposted some of my stuff, which was pretty cool. Anyway, I read A Duke of Her Own, the 6th book in her Desperate Duchesses series. This is probably my least favorite series of hers. I haven't been a big fan of any of the books in this series up to this point, but holy cow, I loved this one. This story has been teased for a long time in the series. The poor Duke of Villiers has been a pseudo-villain in many of her books, but now he's trying to right wrongs by rescuing all 6 of his bastard children from really bad situations and raising them himself. He's a really interesting offbeat character, and ignore the description on Goodreads, which leads you to believe that Lizette is the romantic lead when in fact it's Eleanor all the way. I was so excited that I went on to her spin-off series, Desperate Duchesses by the Numbers, which is about the next generation after the generation in the Desperate Duchesses series. 3 Weeks with Lady X is about Villiers' eldest bastard son, and Lady Zenobia India, who, though a lady, works for a living. She rescues households in chaos and turns them into well-oiled machines, and it was pretty good. Not as inspired as A Duke of Her Own, but still very fun. Though she does try to convince us that India Rubber was named after Lady India, rather than what I sneakily suspect is the actual namesake, the country of India. On the paranormal romance front, I continued on in the Mercy Thompson series by Patricia Briggs. Silverborn is book 5 and is about a magic book, the Fae, and Sam's Wolf taking over from his human side full time. This one is a really interesting look into Mercy's psyche. This series always grips me, so I really liked this book. Not my fave of the series though. This series is so strong though that it's not really saying much. If you like paranormal romance and you haven't picked up the series, what's wrong with you? Just do it. Master of the Night by Angela Knight. This has been sitting on my TBR for quite some time. I don't know where I found it, but it's about this agent who has been assigned to seduce this international businessman. But it turns out he's also an agent and a vampire. You with that lovely, ridiculous premise, I expected more of this book, but it turns out to be just fairly average paranormal romance. Not the most scintillating, but not horrible. Alrighty, the next Jane Ann Krentz book I picked up was Copper Beach. This is about a paranormal book expert and a dangerous paranormal book that suddenly everyone wants her to find. This was pleasant, kind of blasé. I've read better Jane Ann Krentz books, and I certainly wouldn't start here if you haven't read any books by her or her many, many pseudonyms, but still not bad. I've been trying to get into Rochelle Mead's other series besides Vampire Academy. I started the Paranormal Regina Kincaid series, and it was okay. I may or may not continue on with that one. Now I've started the Paranormal Dark Swan series with Stormborn, which is about a shaman who ends up being the long-lost daughter of a fairy king. I don't know, I didn't dislike this book, but I'm not sure it's quite my thing. I did not dig the love triangle on this one. I just don't think I will continue on with the series. I managed to get another Ridiculous Titles book done in August, which is, wait for it, Vampire Chic. It has very bad ratings on Goodreads, and it's also the third book in a series that I have not read, but I couldn't not read it. It has the title Vampire Chic. It's pure, schlocky, horrible, horrible gold of a name. Unfortunately, the book was just, no. It's just, no. Just stepped over too many lines. Too many. I know the title is tempting, pure temptation, but just no. All that I want, all that I'm really asking for is very good books that just happen to have ridiculous titles. Any suggestions?